That Fantastic Four mid-credit scene wasn't just a teaser, it was a grenade tossed into the fandom's lap. A single frame in Marvel managed to set every Reddit thread on fire without even showing Doom's face. That's how they operate now, not with answers, but with implications. And it's working. Because instead of giving us a neat little wrap-up post-Galactus, they blew open more questions than we were even prepared to ask. Why didn't they reveal Doom? What does Franklin have to do with any of this? And more importantly, why now? Here's where things start to spiral, and if you think this is all random, think again. Marvel has moved beyond simple, linear stories. They're not just building toward a climax, they're weaving a meta-narrative. And this mid-credit scene might just be the first truly intelligent breadcrumb they've dropped in a while. The key lies in what they didn't show. Let's talk about RDJ. Yes, that Robert Downey Jr. Because if you pause that scene and squint, no, not literally squint, but if you've been following interviews, press notes, and those sly Comic-Con panel smirks from Matt Shackman, you know, he confirmed that it wasn't a double. It was RDJ. No deepfake, no trickery, just silence, a shadowed profile, and a thunderclap of implications. That is, without saying it out loud, Marvel just confirmed that Iron Man is back, but not the one you think. See, we're not dealing with a simple resurrection here. This isn't Endgame Tony. This isn't even Earth 616 Tony. This is possibly a multiversal Tony Stark, and not as a hero, but maybe as a threat. Because if Doom's plot spans across timelines, across entire realities, and RDJ is involved at this stage, then this version of Stark might be part of Doom's arsenal. A corrupted genius, maybe even a variant who regrets not becoming Doom himself. Think about it, Doom and Stark are intellectual rivals in many versions of the comics. In some stories, Doom even surpasses Stark in both tech and magic. Marvel could be positioning this Tony as a warped reflection, one who crossed the moral event horizon. But then the real question hits harder. Who is this Doom? Marvel's carefully dodging this answer, because the Doom we saw or didn't see wasn't just a guy in armor. He was presence. That entire mid-credit scene built him up as something more than just another villain. There's intent in that ambiguity. They want us to wonder, is this Doom the one who will become the Doom, the God Emperor, the Battle World Architect, the multiverse's last hope and greatest threat? And all signs point to yes. Let's rewind to that Latveria throne scene. Empty, dusty, like someone walked away and never came back. That's not a power vacuum. That's a narrative invitation. Marvel is telling us Doom wasn't absent because he was irrelevant. He was gone because he chose to be. And the fact that they showed the throne at all, despite his absence, tells us they're setting up a return. A grand one. You don't show an empty throne unless someone's about to take it or has already claimed another one, somewhere far more dangerous. Now look at the timeline. The mid-credit scene takes place 4 years after Galactus's defeat. That's a long time to stay quiet. It's deliberate. The delay isn't a mistake. It's a setup. Franklin needed to age. Marvel needed to position him as someone not just genetically important, but emotionally complex. Because now he's not a baby or a plot device, he's a character. A young man with powers he barely understands, whose parents can't fully protect him, and who's now being approached by the most manipulative mind in the multiverse. Doom didn't just show up to grab a superpowered kid. He showed up to complete a plan that's likely been years or multiverses in the making. And this is where it gets tricky. Doom may not even be from the MCU's main timeline. That's the twist. If he's multiversal, if he's been traveling through branches of reality, then his absence during Galactus makes perfect sense. While everyone was fighting a world-ending threat, Doom was already thinking 10 steps ahead. He didn't fight Galactus because he knew Galactus wasn't the end, just a symptom of something bigger. But then, How do we explain Sue's familiarity with him? That one shot where Sue sees Franklin with Doom isn't just a horror moment. It's loaded. She doesn't just react with panic, there's recognition. She knows him. Not like I've seen the wanted posters, but personal. Like a history. Maybe this Doom is from their universe, or maybe Sue encountered him before during Reed's early experiments. Maybe Doom was a partner, a rival, a scientist who got burned in more ways than one. Marvel is banking on that ambiguity to let them pivot in any direction later. Smart move. Now let's zero in on Franklin, because let's be real. He's not just a kid. He's a loaded gun waiting to go off. In the comics, Franklin Richards is arguably the most powerful mutant ever. Omega Level doesn't even begin to describe it. He creates universes like a child builds with Legos. That level of raw, unrefined, untrained power. It's a time bomb, and Marvel knows it. By showing that Franklin has been hiding his power since the womb, yes, the womb, they're establishing two things. First, that he's innately powerful. Second, that he's conscious of it. That's terrifying. A child aware of his cosmic influence, trying to suppress it to stay normal. And now Doom's here, whispering in his ear like a twisted multiversal mentor. In the movie, there's a key debate between Reed and Sue about Franklin. They fear he might become something dangerous. A monster. Not out of malice, but confusion. And Doom? He thrives on confusion. His genius isn't in building tech, it's in planting ideas. So if he tells Franklin, "You're not dangerous, you're evolution," the kid might believe it. Let's pivot to the tech for a second. Reed's teleportation setup needed an entire city block of power to move a single egg. Yet Doom shows up, mid-credit, casually moving through realities like he's catching a bus. That's not just flex, it's a signal. Doom has built something else. Something Reed can't even conceptualize yet. Which means Doom might have stumbled upon something bigger than multiverse theory. Something closer to what the TVA had, or what Loki unleashed when he took over the throne. And here's where it gets cosmic. The faint sound in that mid-credit scene, it's not just random SFX, it's a clue. Marvel's sound design team knows fans pick up on this. It doesn't match the teleportation from Reed. It doesn't match Kang's counsel. It's new. That suggests Doom's tech is original. Or worse, stolen from someone or something else. What if Doom has already encountered remnants of the TVA? What if he's been through timelines where the Council of Kangs ruled and fell? What if he killed a Kang? Or 10. That would explain why we haven't heard about Kang recently. Marvel might be phasing him out, quietly, cleanly, with Doom as the guy who swept the board. And if you're going to replace Kang, you better replace him with someone who can rule gods. That's Doom. In the comics, Doom becomes Sorcerer Supreme. He combines science and magic into something terrifying, and most importantly, he doesn't seek power for chaos. He seeks it for order. That's crucial. Doom doesn't want destruction. He wants control. A world that obeys his rules because he believes he's the only one who can keep it from burning. So why not stop Galactus? Because Galactus wasn't a threat to Doom's plan. He was a distraction. Letting Earth fight Galactus, letting Franklin awaken his power may have been part of the setup. It's almost like Doom wanted Franklin to be tested, to taste fear, to unlock his cosmic birthright, and now that he has, Doom moves in. Let's talk Battle World. In the comics, Doom creates it using Molecule Man. But in the MCU, we haven't seen Molecule Man yet. And maybe we won't. Marvel has a habit of compressing arcs, and Franklin could take his place. He's a better candidate anyway. Younger, emotionally unstable, more manipulable, and most importantly, familiar. We already care about him. Battleworld isn't just a cool name. It's the last resort. It's the place Doom builds when everything else fails. When the multiverse collapses, when incursions tear through existence, Doom doesn't try to fix it, he replaces it. Patchwork realities, stitched together, governed by his rules. That's where this is headed. Franklin becomes the key. His power, cosmic, is the fuel. Doom is the architect. Together, they're not trying to conquer, they're trying to preserve. But that's what makes it so dangerous. Because in trying to save everything, Doom will destroy the concept of freedom. He always does. You might be asking, where's Loki in all this? He's the multiverse's current gatekeeper. Shouldn't he stop this? No. Because Loki made one choice that changed everything. He allowed free will. That's why he sits on that metaphorical throne. That's why the branches grow endlessly. Doom's rise, Franklin's corruption, incursions. It's all part of the chaos Loki allowed. And now, Doom will use that chaos as justification to reset the board. That's why he needs Franklin. Not just for raw power, but because Franklin wants to understand. He's curious. He reads Darwin. He thinks in evolution, not morality. And Doom can use that to frame the idea of Battleworld as not tyranny, but natural selection. A new world, born from logic, sculpted by cosmic hands. But Franklin's curiosity is exactly what makes him vulnerable. He doesn't fully understand what Doom is doing, not yet. But Doom doesn't need him to. He just needs a seed of doubt, a crack in Franklin's faith in his parents. A single question. Why did Reed hide this from me? Once that idea is planted, Doom has all the leverage he needs. Now think back to Sue's face in that scene. The pain, the recognition, the quiet fear. That wasn't just a mother seeing her child in danger. That was someone realizing the enemy already got inside. Not through violence, not through force, but through influence. Doom didn't come with weapons. He came with ideas. And that's always been his greatest weapon. Let's circle back to Doom's face, or the lack thereof. Marvel didn't show it, not even in a reflection, but they showed the mask. And that tells us a lot. In the comics, Doom hides his face not because it's grotesque, but because of what it symbolizes, imperfection. A single scar is enough for him to see himself as broken. That's how big his ego is. And ego is everything for Doom. In fact, it's his only true weakness. Marvel will likely follow that path, scarred, but not monstrous. Because they want us to understand something. Doom doesn't wear the mask to hide. He wears it because the world disappointed him. Because he refuses to be seen as anything less than divine. Now imagine Franklin, this immensely powerful, curious child, seeing Doom unmasked, seeing the scar, healing it, just like that, with a flick of cosmic energy. That would seem like a beautiful, redemptive moment, until it's not. Because in that moment, Doom might decide that Franklin is no longer a child to be protected, but a force to be wielded. The moment the mask is removed, Doom becomes something new. Not a man, not a ruler, but a god with a tool. And what does a god do when reality is collapsing around him? He remakes it. That's the road to Battleworld. It doesn't start with explosions. It starts with conversations, subtle shifts in trust. Franklin asking questions his parents won't answer. Doom giving him those answers even if they're lies. Over time, Reed and Sue lose their influence. Doom becomes the mentor. And then, when the time is right, he activates Franklin's potential and begins constructing a new reality from the remains of the multiverse. We've seen this arc before in the comics. Secret Wars, 2015. Battleworld wasn't a battleground at first. It was a safe haven, until it wasn't. Doom rules over multiple realities stitched together, and every hero is trapped in their own twisted slice of existence. That's where this is going. And here's where Marvel's multiverse saga starts tying itself back together. You remember the Council of Kangs, the post-credit scene from Quantumania, an endless assembly of variants, arrogant, chaotic, self-serving. If Doom has been traveling realities for 4 years, odds are he's encountered them or destroyed them. That might be Marvel's quiet exit from Kang as the big bad. By the time we reach Doomsday, we'll realize Doom's already ended that threat. Off-screen. Clean, efficient Doom style. And let's talk incursions. Introduced in Multiverse of Madness, incursions happen when realities collide. One survives. One dies. Doom understands this. He doesn't want to stop incursions because he knows he can't. What he wants is to end the game. Create one stable reality. One battle world. A Frankenstein universe where incursions no longer matter because there's only one world left. That's what makes Franklin essential. His power isn't just strength. It's creation. He can collapse the collapsing branches into a single static trunk. That's how you beat the multiverse. You kill the idea of infinite. You make one. Doom understands this better than anyone. But that brings us to the biggest tension in this saga. Reed versus Doom. Reed Richards isn't just Doom's rival. He's Doom's obsession. In the comics, Doom doesn't hate Reed because he's smarter. He hates him because he's right. Every time. Reed is rational, careful, deeply flawed, but fundamentally honest. Doom is brilliant, passionate, visionary, but always manipulative. They are two sides of the same coin. And in the MCU, this conflict is more personal than ever, because now there's Franklin in the middle. Not just a pawn, but their son. That turns this into something Shakespearean. It's not just about saving the world anymore. It's about who Franklin will choose to become, and who he'll see as his true guide. And Marvel is clearly leaning into that emotional core. They didn't put Doom in the mid-credits for spectacle. They did it to shift the tone. This isn't Kang's saga anymore. This is a family tragedy. Reed, Sue, Franklin, and the man who thinks he can save them all by breaking everything. Let's talk about Doom's ideology. In the comics, Doom always walks that line between villain and visionary. He's not evil for evil's sake. He truly believes the world needs him, that without his leadership it will fall into chaos. And here, with the multiverse literally unraveling, he might be right. That's the scariest part. This Doom isn't trying to conquer because he's power hungry. He's doing it because he believes there's no one else left who can hold the multiverse together. Now ask yourself, what happens when that belief is challenged? Let's say Franklin pushes back. Let's say he realizes that creating Battleworld means killing every other possible outcome. Doom doesn't see that as murder. He sees it as mercy. But Franklin? He might hesitate. He might ask the one question Doom fears. What if I'm wrong? That's the break. That's the crack in Doom's perfect plan. And that's when Reed re-enters the story, not as a genius, but as a father. The man who once feared his son might be too powerful, now becomes the one person who reminds him that power means nothing without choice. That's the emotional heart of this saga. Not explosions, not portals, but the quiet moment when a child has to decide which version of the future he believes in. And Marvel is building toward that, slowly, strategically. Think about Loki's role in all of this. He sits on the throne at the edge of time, letting every branch of reality grow. That's why he doesn't interfere, not because he can't, but because he won't. Free will means letting Doom build Battleworld. It means letting Franklin make mistakes. It means letting the multiverse burn, if that's what people choose. It's the ultimate gamble, and it's the only way Loki can honor the sacrifice Sylvie made when she killed He Who Remains. So now we've got this cosmic scale conflict with deeply personal stakes. And Marvel can take it in several directions. Maybe we get a Secret Wars where all the heroes are trapped in Battle World, fighting for fragments of their memory. Maybe Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man shows up as a war-weary veteran from another reality. Maybe Hugh Jackman's Wolverine fights Doom hand-to-hand. It's all possible, but it all starts with Franklin. And the question that drives the entire next phase is this. What happens when a child who can create realities is raised between a father who doubts him and a stranger who believes in him too much? Marvel isn't building toward a war. They're building toward a choice. And that's what makes it brilliant. Now remember, in the comics, Doom only creates Battle World when everything else fails. When the multiverse collapses. When all attempts at salvation fall short. He doesn't do it first. He does it last. It's the nuclear option. And that means we're going to see a slow collapse. One universe at a time. Maybe through incursions. Maybe through Kang remnants. Maybe through time loops gone wrong. But piece by piece, the MCU is going to unravel. Until Doom offers his solution. And the only thing that can stop him is Franklin. Not with power, but with understanding. Because here's the secret. Doom doesn't just want a god. He wants a believer. Someone who validates his philosophy. Someone who says, you were right. And if Franklin refuses to say that, if he chooses chaos, family, love, then Doom's entire empire falls apart. That's the true battle. Not explosions. Not cameos. Not who lifts Thor's hammer. The real war is ideological. Order versus freedom. Control versus chaos. Doom versus choice. And that's why this mid-credit scene matters more than people think. It's not just a teaser, it's the pivot. The beginning of a slow, terrifying descent into a story that could redefine the MCU. So don't let the silence fool you. That wasn't just an empty throne. That wasn't just a shadow behind a mask. That wasn't just a boy with glowing eyes. That was Marvel saying, the real story hasn't even started yet. So now we've got the full shape of it. The throne is empty, the kid is growing, and the man behind the mask is already 5 moves ahead. But let's talk about what happens when the rest of the Marvel universe wakes up to it. Because make no mistake, this isn't a Fantastic Four problem anymore. It's everyone's problem. Battleworld, if Marvel follows through, won't just be Doom's little empire. It'll be the central stage for the future of the entire franchise. You want to bring in Tobey Maguire? You want Hugh Jackman? You want Andrew Garfield, Deadpool, Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, Blade, X-Men, Magneto, Jean Grey, or maybe even the long-forgotten Inhumans. Battleworld is the answer. It doesn't require clean origin stories or perfect timeline continuity. It allows Marvel to throw every piece of its multiversal puzzle into one chaotic, stitched-together sandbox. And who's the needle and thread? Franklin. That's the plan. Use his power to collapse worlds together, but in a way that feels organic. In a way that still centers the story around personal consequences. Because that's the only way it works. The audience won't care about universe hopping unless someone in that world feels the weight of it. Franklin's uncertainty, Doom's manipulation, Sue's fear, Reed's guilt, that's the emotional glue. That's what makes the cosmic scale personal. Let's talk about Sue for a second. In most iterations of Fantastic Four, she's the most underwritten character, which is ridiculous, because she's arguably the most powerful. Her force fields are insanely overpowered in the comics. She's also the emotional backbone of the team. In the MCU, Marvel has to get her right, because she's the bridge between Reed's logic and Franklin's chaos. She's the one Doom can't manipulate, but the one who knows she can't beat him alone. Imagine that moment. Sue confronts Doom, not in battle, but in dialogue. She asks him why he needs her son. Doom doesn't flinch. He tells her the truth. Because Franklin is the only one who can fix what Reed broke. That's the knife twist. The accusation that reads curiosity, his endless tinkering with teleportation, his arrogance, it opened the door to the multiverse collapsing. And now Franklin has to pay the price. Doom won't scream. He won't threaten. He'll just calmly explain that he's the only one willing to do what's necessary. He'll say what no Avenger has ever said out loud. You can't save everyone. So save what you can. Save what matters. And Sue won't be able to argue with that. Not fully. That's how Doom wins. Not with fists, but with facts. With half-truths. With pragmatism twisted into prophecy. Now eventually, the rest of the Marvel Universe will show up. Whether that's in Secret Wars or Doomsday or whatever they name the crossover film that follows. And they won't come in as a unified team. They'll come in scattered, pulled into Battle World from different timelines, different tones, different emotional arcs. Peter Parker from one world, older, tired, still mourning May. Thor, still broken from losing Jane. Wanda, maybe alive again in a twisted pocket reality where her kids did survive. These characters won't just be heroes, they'll be pieces of Doom's experiment. Because if you think Battle World is just a planet, you're missing the point. It's a test chamber. It's a map of what-ifs built by a child's power and a tyrant's design. Every patch of land could represent a different failed universe, a lesson Doom wants to teach, a moral he wants to enforce. Imagine this. A section of Battle World where Ultron won, another where the snap never happened, another where Tony never sacrificed himself. And the Avengers? They're scattered across these zones, unaware of who they are, until the memories start returning. Until someone starts connecting the dots. Maybe Strange, maybe Peter, maybe even Reed, trapped in a zone where Franklin was never born. And that's where the tension hits peak level. Because now we're not just dealing with Doom versus the heroes. We're dealing with Doom's idea of a perfect world versus the chaos of human emotion. And Franklin is watching all of it, observing, learning, and slowly realizing that the paradise Doom promised is just another prison. This is where Marvel can push it to the limit. Imagine Franklin walking through Battle World, seeing versions of his family broken, twisted, erased, seeing what Doom let happen, seeing the emotional cost, and he begins to understand Doom didn't build this for peace. He built it for control, for ego, for himself. And that realization breaks the spell. Franklin finally makes a choice. He chooses not to be Molecule Man. He chooses not to fuel Doom's illusion. He doesn't destroy Battle World, he uncreates it, one layer at a time. Not in rage, but in sorrow. In clarity. He lets it collapse back into the multiverse it came from, full of flaws, contradictions, infinite possibilities. And in that moment, he becomes more than just a powerful mutant. He becomes a multiversal constant. Not a god, but a guardian. And Doom? He's left standing in the ruins, not defeated, but emptied. He had everything. A world shaped by his will. A godchild who listened. And he lost it all, not because of a battle, but because someone saw through him. That's the endgame Marvel could build toward. Not a massive final fight, but a quiet, devastating realization. A moral loss. The most painful kind of defeat. And then maybe Doom vanishes. Not dead. Not arrested, just gone. Somewhere in the cracks between realities, building again. Waiting. Watching. And that keeps the door open for his return. Always. Now here's the genius of Marvel's current setup. They haven't committed to this yet. Not fully, but they've suggested it. With a single mid-credit scene, they gave us Franklin, they gave us Doom, they hinted at time, memory, power, morality, and they did it without showing a single battle. That's the evolution of storytelling Marvel desperately needed. Less noise, more meaning. And now they have a runway to stretch this arc for years. They can drop hints in every upcoming movie. Maybe a TVA relic in Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe a brief shot of Battle World in Secret Wars. Maybe Reed disappears without warning in a future Avengers film, pulled across realities to stop a threat only he understands. It all builds, and by the time we return to Franklin, he'll be older, more powerful, more conflicted, ready for a final choice. And we'll be right there with him. So let's recap the real chessboard here. Doom is not just a villain. He's a visionary with flawed logic and terrifying clarity. Franklin is not just a child. He's the future of the multiverse. Reed is not just a genius. He's a father who fears what his mind has unleashed. Sue is not just a mother. She's the tether between cosmic chaos and human empathy. And Loki, he's the silent observer, the last believer in free will, the one who let this happen. Every player matters. Every choice echoes. Every quiet moment now has multiversal consequences. That's what makes this new arc so brilliant. It's no longer about who wins the fight. It's about what happens after. About who chooses what kind of world deserves to exist. So next time you rewatch that Fantastic Four mid-credit scene, don't look for Easter eggs. Don't pause to count symbols or decode tech. Just listen. Listen to the silence. To the way Franklin doesn't speak. To the way Sue doesn't scream. To the way Doom doesn't explain. Because all of that is intentional. Marvel is telling a story now with space, with implication, with fear wrapped in stillness. And when that silence finally breaks, when Doom finally speaks, it's not going to be with threats. It'll be with truths. Painful, unavoidable, seductive. Truths about power, about choice, about how every hero is just a temporary solution. But order lasts, unless someone dares to destroy it. Unless someone like Franklin says no. So buckle in. We're not headed for another portal battle. We're headed for philosophy disguised as fantasy. For emotion disguised as spectacle. For the most dangerous question Marvel has ever asked. What if Doom is right? And the answer, well, that's for Franklin to decide. Until then, we wait. We watch. And we prepare for the moment everything familiar becomes unrecognizable. Not because it was destroyed, but because someone chose to rewrite it. One patch, one rule, one world, under Doom.